If there is one genre that has changed more than any other over the course of the past 25 years, it would be the FPS, and I can't say it has been a change for the better. As visuals became more realistic, the gameplay too began to become equally as so. What we ended up with is the FPS genre losing what made it so much fun, and that was the fast-paced action pitting the player against unrealistic odds with games like Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake, Heretic, and more. The past few years, however, there has thankfully been a re-emergence of the retro FPS, with the likes of Strafe, Catan, and the 2016 reboot of Doom, not to mention the upcoming A Medieval. But it is the latest retro stylized FPS titled DUSK that has brought back the days of yore, where all others have fallen short in some form or another. DUSK is a retro style FPS game developed by David Szymanski and published by New Blood Interactive. The game released in early access January 11th and is planned to release sometime in 2018. DUSK resembles the days of Quake down to a T, with a fast-paced action and kick-ass heavy metal soundtrack, complex level design and visual design, to the point you'd think it's still 1986, and it is glorious. The game takes place in the fictional town of DUSK, Pennsylvania. There are Lovecraftian ruins unearthed around an area of farmland. The discovery interests the government greatly, and military and research personnel are rapidly sent out to build factories and research labs there, hoping to harness the magical powers of the ruins. It isn't long before disaster strikes, and most of the scientists and military are possessed by demonic forces, with those who survive fleeing and the town being sealed off from the rest of the world. You take on the role of a treasure hunter, who is pretty much called Dusk Dude or Dusk Guy by everyone at this point. Dusk Dude heads to the town of Dusk after hearing rumours that the town contains hidden riches within it. Upon heading there, he is captured by the denizens of the town and brought to a farmhouse where he is propped up on meat hooks. Dusk Dude manages to get himself free and grabs 2 sickles to defend himself, and it is here that the game begins. Much like the games it inspires from, there is a plot there, but the main focus of the game is the gameplay over the actual story. Throughout the levels you will find writing on walls that is effective in giving insight into what exactly is going on, despite its brief and few words. For what little plot there is, it isn't anything too original. Think of it as a plot of Doom meets Lovecraft. Despite that being the case, it does exactly as it is intended to create the setting and the reason for the protagonist to be there. And that is all it needs, as it is a game that is played for the frantic 90s gameplay as opposed to the plot. If there was one criticism I would have with the plot, it would be that the protagonist doesn't have any particular identity. Doom has Doom Guy, Quake is Ranger, Half-Life is Gordon Freeman, and so on. They had a physical appearance in the world, but here that isn't the case. You don't even see as much as hands wielding weapons. It isn't a deal breaker in any way, but it would be nice to see the character we are playing in one form or another, as opposed to what seems like you are controlling floating weapons and hearing grunting every time you jump or are hit. Without that physical appearance, you do get the sense something is missing while playing, and I hope that is something that is added in the final product. Aside from that, however, the plot does its job, and that is to get the action flowing. If you are looking for something more than that, then DUSK is definitely not going to be what you had in mind. The gameplay to DUSK is exactly what you would expect from a game that is designed after the FPS titles of the 90s. You start off with a basic weapon, in this case 2 sickles, and you need to make your way to the end of the level, with a ton of enemies standing between you and it. DUSK doesn't mess around in any shape or form. Right from the get-go, you have Texas Chainsaw Massacre style enemies coming at you, ready to saw you to pieces. There's no slow build-up, no tutorials, just straight into the action, whether you are ready or not, and that is exactly what the 90s FPS gaming was always about. As you progress through the levels, you find new and more powerful weapons, starting with a single pistol and shotgun, before gaining an additional one of each to dual wield. Then there is the super shotgun for extra firepower, assault rifle for less damage but extreme fire rate, hunting rifle which acts as a form of sniper rifle, crossbow that fires through enemies and walls, mortar which is your grenade, and finally the riveter which is your rocket launcher. What more could you want? Also, to help you in your mission, there are power-ups to be found. The first is a rune which grants the player a super fast fire rate for a short period of time. It's used for killing a lot of enemies very quickly, but is a real ammo hog, so caution is advised when using it, especially in higher difficulties later in the game. The second power comes in the form of a syringe, which grants you superhuman reflexes while at a standstill. Essentially what this does is turn the gameplay into what Super Hot is, where everything only really moves when you do. It's a nice little touch, but I feel it is only put into the game as a plot element as opposed to being something added to enhance the gameplay. As you explore the levels, killing anything that moves in true retro FPS fashion, there are secrets to be found. Secrets come in all forms, from secret doors that you interact with or need to find a hidden switch to open, hidden vents and destructible walls with cracks in them, just to name a few. The gameplay takes the full-on Quake approach of super fast movement, rapid enemy attacks and pitting you against a lot of enemies at once. At the start of the game, enemy numbers are not that high, the most you find is 5 or 6 at once, but as you progress, the overall game difficulty increases, the groups become bigger, doubling, if not at times tripling. With the game having no regenerating health to survive, you need to keep on the move constantly, dodging enemy projectiles while still filling them full of lead. And the intensity and thrill brought on by this is something that the genre has been missing for years. But the gameplay isn't all just a nostalgia trip, there are a few modern details added in. Firstly is the ability to slide. This is useful for being able to slide under fallen trees or for a quick maneuver to get out of the way of enemy fire, or quickly get up close and personal to give them a face full of shotgun. There are also barrels and petrol canisters scattered throughout the levels which you can pick up and throw at enemies or simply shoot to destroy. Another addition is the ability to pick up crates and boxes, which sometimes become necessary to find or reach secret areas that would otherwise be unreachable, adding a new layer of depth to secret hunting. At the end of each level, your overall kills, secrets found and how long the level took to complete is added up. There are awards to be earned for specific accomplishments. From what I gather, there are 4 to be earned in each level, but so far I've only achieved 2 of them, that being Completionist, which you get for killing all the enemies and finding all the secrets, and the other is Untouchable, where you complete a level without taking any damage. I would imagine at least one of the other 2 I'm yet to unlock is for beating the level quicker than the developer's time. Having the awards is a small detail, and one that doesn't really bother me all that much. But for those who like to have a few extra goals and get a bit more mileage out of the game, they are a nice touch. Then there are the difficulty settings of the game, which range from easy, medium, hard and very hard. There's even a 5th difficulty setting that turns the game into insta-kill, meaning that you instantly die if you take any damage at all. There's also an additional modifier you can choose where at the start of each level you only have the 2 sickles starting off. The difficulty modes are fair and suit everyone of all skill levels, but if I am to be frank, DUSK is a game that needs to be played in the hardest difficulty. I don't mean the insta-kill one to save confusion. It's only in the hardest difficulty does the game present you with the intense super fast gameplay that it is designed for. It is a difficulty the game is supposed to be played, just like all these kinds of games are. The first time playing DUSK I put the game into medium difficulty to get to grips with it, but I found myself not enjoying it. It felt like something was missing. But when I started over in the higher difficulty, I felt right at home, and the game was far better, far more action-packed, and everything I wanted DUSK to be. The gameplay is nothing short of invigorating, and really makes you feel like the retro FPS of the 90s never went away. If Quake was your cup of tea back in the day, you're going to feel right at home with DUSK, and you're going to love every single second of it. The level design of DUSK shows exactly the stages of development the game has been through, as the difference in the design between episode 1 and episode 2 is phenomenal. The first episode feels a lot more like Blood in its design, with a B-horror movie vibe to it with Texas Chainsaw Massacre inspiration really showing, along with countless other horror movies, as is seen in the enemies between mutant cows, shotgun-wielding scarecrows, and more. The complexity of the level design is a lot more basic in episode 1. Sure, there is plenty of branching paths and hard to find secrets, but overall, the feel and vibe of it doesn't really give much difference to other video games and movies. Don't get me wrong though, the levels are brilliantly done, offering constant flowing and easy to navigate maps, resulting in the action never slowing down unless you want to go secret hunting. But it is episode 2 that Skamanski's real level design talent comes into play, and DUSK gains a real identity of its own. Here the levels are bigger and consist of more complex and abstract geometry that never ceases to surprise you. From the very get-go of episode 2 there is something in every level that makes your jaw drop. And not only that, but the environment's doing an excellent job of telling the story. DUSK doesn't need a screen full of text or fancy cutscenes to tell the story. All you need to do is sit back and take in what you're seeing for a moment, and everything quickly begins to click into place. And my god does it give some real holy crap moments. And it is done in such a subtle way too. It's nothing short of amazing. Episode 1 is the starter, giving you a sample of the deliciousness that is coming your way, and episode 2 is the main course. It's bigger, it's better, and it more than gives you your fill. I can only hope that Szymanski hasn't outdone himself too early and still has some tricks left up his sleeve for the finale, as he's going to have to do something special with the level building, as episode 2 leaves expectations very high. Dusk isn't just another clone. It isn't just another half-arsed attempt to cash in on a quick nostalgia trip, and it isn't a game that pretends to be retro. It is an FPS game of purity. It is a love letter to an era of gaming that has become lost in the modern age of market research and greed. It is the FPS that provides gameplay that fans from the 90s have waited over 20 years for, and David Szymanski has delivered in every regard. Dusk is action-packed, it is fast-paced, brilliantly metal, and is unapologetically old school. And it is bloody marvellous. From the amazing level design, to the subtle but effective storytelling, to the perfectly fitting enemies, there really isn't anything to dislike about the game. But one single complaint I have is so minor that while playing it is forgotten about. It's games like Dusk that generally make this grumpy and at times cynical man excited about video games. It's games like Dusk that are the reason I love doing this. There's games like Dusk that show there is still passion and a beam of hope in video game development, and that this industry isn't all about dollar signs and corporate bullshit. What more can I say? Buy it, play it, and revel in its awesomeness, for as long as you can, because you're going to be waiting an awful long time before another FPS of this quality is going to come along.